All right. So Maria and I are just recording this because we just had a very profound conversation that we feel like the collective and everyone should hear if you choose to. So we were talking about the new Earth and 5D, and someone had asked me my stance on New Earth, and I said, I don't really know my stance, but I do know that I've been trying to stay present and that the new Earth is really about awareness and our shift in perspective and seeing life differently and coming from a more compassionate space. And because when we can come from more compassionate space and we do that inner work, we can change our perspective, which changes our environment, which makes things brighter. And when we can stand in our space, we can stand in our light, that transcends out to help other people do it too. And that's raising our vibration. So it's not like a new earth just being dropped down in front of us, something tangible, but it's more of how we look at earth and how we allow ourselves to be present in earth and what vibration we're kind of living at and living on. Because when we can do that inner shadow work, we can really bring light to all parts of us, which help us shift our perspective with things. So we can feel lighter through shit, and that will help other people start to feel lighter. But we all need to do that inner work in order to have a new earth, like in our fullest form. But yeah, I think that's what I said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yes, and I agree 100%. And just to kind of build off of it a little bit, to me, New Earth is already here. There's so much, there's so many teachings out there, old Earth, new Earth, when is it coming? And just from my own, journey and perspective, I believe that new earth starts from within every single one of us. And as Sam said, it's really about going into deep into our wounds, our shadows, our traumas, our everything, our joys, everything, and being able to transmute them, see the lesson. And then as we shift our perspective, our external realities shift. Like you hear it in so many teachings about how our perspectives create our realities, and they do. And I know just from my own personal experience, if I'm in a higher vibration some days, right? Like I can look out into the earth. I can look out into my environment and see things brighter. Like the trees physically look brighter to me. The colors are more vibrant. Because that's the vibration my reality is at. So that's how I'm seeing it. So it could be the same tree that was there 3 days ago when I was in a shit mood that looked just like any old tree, right? So it's like, yeah, I feel like I bounce back and forth between new earth and old earth based on my perspective, my internal really resonance. Where am I at? Like if I'm looking out at everything externally and only seeing shit, well, that means internally I feel like shit, basically. So once I can move through those shitty feelings, shitty emotions, shitty thoughts, really understand what they're trying to teach me and tell me, then I can shift my perspective of it and start to raise my vibration, which in turn manifests new earth. And I believe that as more of the collective does this work internally, individually for themselves, we will start to physically see manifestations of this new earth that people talk about. Like Sam said, I also don't believe it's not just magically dropped in. Like it's already in existence. It is already here. But if we're not at a vibratory match for it, we won't see it. We won't experience it. So it's like we have to raise our vibration to match that vibration of this new earth that we're creating. And so many of us are doing the work. So many of us are getting glimpses of what the new earth is and really feeling into our power, which is what I believe this whole shift is about. So yeah, people, new earth is here, but it's here. It's here.
And we were also saying how, um, in a linear aspect, right, there's still going to be this 3D, 4D Earth. Dimensions, to me, I feel like are just raising your vibration to a higher awareness rather than like a game where you step up a level, right? It's more of you're you're becoming aware of everything quicker and clearer, and you can heal from shit much faster because you're aware that it's happening. And
Yep.
rather than judging yourself or talking bad up to yourself and beating yourself up, you're like, okay, what's the lesson? Like, what do I need to know? Okay, I just got to be present. I got to rest. I got to go dance and punch shit. Cool. Like, whatever it is. But this, the lower densities, like Maria was saying before we recorded this, like they're still going to be here for a very long time on a linear aspect.
100%.
And when you start to raise your awareness and you become more understanding and like shift your perspective, like we keep saying, you notice that linear lives aren't real, I guess you could say. I don't know how to say it, but you start really dropping timelines and seeing yourself in other lives as though they're happening literally right now. Um, and that I feel is moving into that 5D one, but higher, right? Higher states of consciousness, because now you're like seeing a whole collective suffering
Mm-hmm.
while you're suffering in the past life too. And even though you're still sitting here in this world in my room, I'm also maybe somewhere in like Africa doing something.
Yep.
And
100%.
being able to bring ourselves out of that past life quickly, but knowing the healing and knowing that we don't have to be in it and like feel the emotion, but we can find more compassion for ourselves and for others. Um, because the lower density earth, it's going to be here for a while because we need to
Yep.
face the dark within us before we can really all be light.
Yep. And it's true. And I also think like, we were talking about these lower vibrational earths existing for a while. And um, again, it's all about our perspective of these low vibrations. To me, the way I sort of shift out of it is accepting that it's all just energy. And really, what is running this low vibration? Well, it's fear. And we understand that fear is like the main consciousness that's keeping this part of the earth in a quote unquote low vibration. But fear is also one of our most potent teachers. It's what we as humans come to experience to learn from. So there's nothing wrong with fear. Fear is not bad. When we have that perspective, we get stuck in it. That's what actually keeps us trapped in this sort of 3D, 4D matrix mindset. So when you can start to, again, shift your even perspective of fear, that's what allows you to zoom out and be able to, like what Sam was saying, have just more of an awareness of all of the energies that are at play on all of the earths. And when you can start to see it, that's when you start to adopt this sort of 5D consciousness without even realizing it, because you're really seeing all truths, all realities. There's not one truth. There's not one reality, right? Like we all think our truth is the only truth or this is the truth. And the way that spirit has shown me is that there's multiple realities existing simultaneously based on what's going on in everybody's individual consciousness. And we're creating that. So when you can really start to see it, but also get to a place of like energetic acceptance of that everything's just energy, and this is why these lower dimensional earths will in linear time exist for a long time, because some of us as souls want to come down and experience this. Like we come from such a high vibration, like you can't even put a human description on the vibration that we come from, right? And that's our original soul signature. So how do we learn from that? Well, we come down to really the polar opposite, and we dive into this earth game of life and learn some of the most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching, but also some of the most empowering lessons. And to me, that's what shifts you into 5D and beyond. It's being able to experience every dimension and get to an energetic acceptance of each energy that moves through you and moves through everybody else. And then naturally, you just start to ascend and you start to expand your awareness and you start to vibe higher.
Mm-hmm.
And that, my friends, is New Earth.
I had chills when you said polar opposite. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so when I say polar opposite, it's more like the way I see everything as everything being energy. To me, everything is light. Even what we as humans say is the darkness, it's still light. It's just light fragmented, right? But it's all light. Everything is light. Everything is energy. So when I say like the polar opposite, it's almost like I see a light spectrum like this, right? And we'll hold it like this. And here's like our higher self at the top, and like where we are fully connected to source energy, the divine. So like we're vibing high up here. This part of our soul is like living in high vibrations constantly. And then we drop down, down, down into human forms, all the little incarnations that we play out. So we're dropping down. It's still the same light source. It's still the same um, it's still one single like light, but now we're just dropping down into a lower vibration of that light, which in turn on this earth would be like the fear that most of us live in. And then we run around in circles in this fear, but we learn all these lessons to then move right back up to the other end of the light spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Because polarity is, right, it's also like feminine and masculine, light and dark, positive, negative.
Yin yang.
It's finding the balance in the middle. And
Correct.
in the lower density earths, we're not taught to find balance, right? We're more taught, how do I say it? We're more taught to not,
Distract.
yeah,
Distract ourselves.
yeah, not listen to the inner voice, not listen to the intuition, to be afraid in a sense of energy and woo-woo stuff. And in history, right, like there was the Salem witch trials, and there was all these trials, there was all these cults, and there was all this shit. Well, the same stuff is happening now. It's just depending on what
Yep.
you decide to bring your awareness into and what you decide to feed your attention to and your energy to. So the more of us that feed our intention to like love and peace and empowerment and really like learning the true meaning of a hollow bone, the quicker we can all rise and not have that like lower polarity, right? Like that lower pole you're talking about. Um, and an example comes through like Maria and I have done many readings and soul retrievals and whatever you want to call them now, but we change names for everything. But we had one person who kept being told to leave her house because there's evil.
Bad energy. Evil entities. Yeah.
Yep. And the universe put me in alignment with this one person from my shamanic thing who told this woman about me. So she contacted me and I said Maria and I had to do it together. And there was no evil in her house. It was all of these people kept telling her over and over again there was, so it was ingrained in her. It's what she thought. And the house just had a lot of the land had trauma on it, but she was meant to be on that land to heal the trauma, and we gave her tools to do that because we don't look at evil as something to fear. We look at it as that needs love.
Yep.
That needs compassion because that's the higher new earth 5D energy, higher than that too.
Right.
Um, and I did a reading at a fair where a woman came up to me. She got a reading from me and then went to three other readers, came back to me because the readers told her that people were following her, but didn't tell her who was following her. So she came to me with fear. And I'm like, why would someone, but that's why Maria and I do our work. And that's why it's so important to do your own inner work and to face your own shadows, which are just aspects of yourself you're not aware of yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Show them love because that way you can communicate clearly. You can have compassion for people. You don't keep engraving fear. You can
Right.
have conversations that are healthy rather than destructive. Um,
Yep. Because you're speaking now from your heart centered space versus you're speaking from your fears. Like, um, when we're speaking from our fear, we're just projecting that on to everybody around us. And many of us do it very, very unconsciously. It's such an unconscious thing that we do. And oftentimes we think it's coming from this love. Like we've been taught these sort of skewed versions of love on this earth plane, like and we think we're protecting people. We think we think that we're preventing bad things from happening that to them, and it's like, the way spirit works with us is that we're here to, as Sam previously said, to like really walk in our truth and plant the seeds, but we're not here to prevent people from like living the human experiences they came to learn from. And that's hard sometimes to allow people to suffer, right? Like it hurts us to see people suffering because we know what it feels like to suffer. We don't like to suffer. So what do we want to do? We immediately want to take the suffering away from people. We immediately want to take the pain away from people. And I mean, I know that as from being a nurse. Like that's part of the program of a nurse too. Like you don't leave people in pain. You take their pain away. Well, unfortunately in the healthcare system, we just give pills and little band-aids to take that pain away. But nonetheless, that's a
Doesn't take the
conversation for another day. But
it doesn't
what
take
I'm really, yeah, what I'm really kind of getting at that I've learned in this journey of healing is that like I have to suffer, right? Like I actually have to suffer to be able to heal. Otherwise, it's not really healing. It's kind of sticking a band-aid on something that's just going to keep coming back up. So from my own journey, like I have to suffer through the pain of it, just like we have to live through the 3 and 4D, be aware of it and accept it before we can actually shift out of it. So it's the same thing when we're trying to help other people, right? Like sometimes people have to hit a rock bottom and it's really hard to witness it. But it's sometimes the most loving thing that we can do for people is just to allow them to be, but always offering that support and the guidance when asked, of course. But it's more about just holding space for people to be where they're at. I have found that this journey has become so much more empowered when people hold space for me and when I hold space for people. And holding space when they're suffering literally sometimes means just sitting there in complete silence and holding their hand. Let them express, let them feel whatever they need to feel, let them move these energies through and out of them, because it may be uncomfortable to sit with while you're witnessing it, but it is one of the most healing things that you can allow somebody to do for themselves, and one of the most empowering things. And I know that because my awesome soul sis star has held a lot of space for me, and vice versa. So I just know how powerful and empowering it is. And yeah, the healing process it's no joke. It's not an overnight cure. It's a process, and it's just so important to have compassion the whole time you're going through it, because it's a journey.
It is.
Journey.
Journey. My ego just came in. Dot, dot. Um, the other thing that I was thinking is too that with suffering, when we watch other people that we love suffer and we've been doing our own work, it's so easy for us to be like, listen, just do the work then. Like, stop bitching, go inside, and like,
This
but
is what you need to do. This is what you need to do.
like, you have to realize everyone has a contract and came in to this earth, no matter what earth it is, right? With a way that they learn, a way that they grow, a way that they release, a way that they surrender, right? So
Mhm.
that's why the power of space, holding space is so important, because we, if someone is expressing how they feel and then we react, it shuts them down or makes them react louder and then makes us react. So the power of just pausing and allowing someone to react, no, and not taking it personally is so important. And that will help raise your vibration just by like allowing yourself to be like, I don't have to do anything right now except just be here while the person is venting about whatever, even if what they're saying isn't the nicest things about whatever they're mad at, right? It's just being there and then knowing at another time to be like, hey, do you want to kind of, have some guidance, or, there's this book that could really help, like give them tools if they ask for
Mm-hmm.
it, right? Rather
Mm-hmm.
than pushing, because you've already been doing the path, pushing your perspective or like what works for you on it. Because Maria and I's, both of our men are going through huge shifts right now, as we are too. Um, but we know that me and her have different contracts than them, and we don't know their full contract, right? But we know that when we did our own inner work and when I first started doing my inner work, I was like, shit, this shit's hard. This takes a long time. And when I think about it, it's been like 4 years now, 3 years, 4 years. And I have to realize too that other people in my life, it's going to take them just as long, maybe, right? It's not, it's, there's no timeline on healing. Healing is a
Right.
continuous process.
Right.
And the more you allow yourself to heal, the more your vibration raises and the more life looks brighter. And the less you judge all the external things,
Mm-hmm.
and the less you judge yourself and how you feel. And when we stop being so defensive or offended by what other people say, we can really come from that hollow bone, like open minded space to just be. Um, and that's a very empowering place to be.
Yep.
And with the word fear, I had a session today and I just looked it up because it says fear, it lives in our second chakra and kidneys, but it's a false expectation appearing real.
Yep.
It's an
Or
illusion.
false evidence appearing real, I've heard. Yep.
And I said, I was reading it earlier, I was like, huh, yeah, because your feelings, your emotions, it's what gives us the humanness. And but it's also the part that we can befriend or we can shove down, right? Those emotions. And the more we befriend those fears or those darker things, those denser energies, the more we grow and we actually learn how to live the way we want to live. And I think that's the whole new earth thing, right? Like,
Yeah, it goes full circle, like back to what new earth really is. And I also believe like this new earth, right? Like as we're all going through awakenings, and I've observed it in multiple different spiritual communities, in my personal life, in just in everyday life, in other people. As we are becoming more aware of these things externally and internally, we are craving to be understood by other people. We feel very alienated when the irony of it is like so many of us are actually going through it and feeling this way because I've met so many people that are expressing the same thing. But yet we feel so alone. So what do our egos want? Our egos want somebody that understands us, somebody that sees it from our way, right? Our point of view. And what I've also been shown by spirit is that nobody will ever fully 100% ever see it from my point of view. I will never see it from Sam's point of view. We are different people who have come down and learned different experiences in all of our lifetimes. So we have different perspectives, we have different wisdom, we have different knowledge. So we live in different realities to some degree. And to me, 5D is really that unity consciousness. Is we go back to the polarity thing, right? Like it's all the same. Yes, we're all from one single light source. It's all the same, but we're all uniquely vibrating our different experiences. So this 5D unity consciousness, it's not about everybody now seeing it the same way. It's about embracing everybody's uniqueness, our individuality, and accepting it. It's that acceptance that brings the vibration up to 5D. It's me living in my world and being accepting of what my world is and being accepting of what Sam's world is and everybody else in my life. Like it's not about trying to change people or get them to see it my way. They'll never see it my way. I'll never fully see it their way. But it's having the compassion to accept that we are all different. Granted, we're from this unified source. That's unity. It's not all being the same, right? Like why would we all want to be the same. Like, that's not the point of this human journey, but it's about embracing people's differences and loving them just the same. That's unconditional love. That's loving every aspect of yourself and loving every aspect of everyone around you, which is 5D consciousness, which is the new earth, which is already here, but it starts in here.
Yep. And people, they say dark agenda, and it's like the dark agenda is taking over. They already have their agenda. And it's like, well, if you think about it, we created this, we
The
created,
dark agenda.
yeah,
We did.
and we also created the love. And we, like it's, and our thoughts, our energy, which you guys probably know, but like if you really knew the power within your thoughts, you would start to really listen to your thoughts and see what they're doing. What, like,
Mhm.
your thoughts healthy or not? And if you truly believe, yes, I believe that there are people that have bad intentions. Totally, 100%, right? Because that's in their contract. They're experiencing life the way they want to experience it. But how do we want to feed their experience or not? Like, is it aligned with us or not, right? So if
Right.
you believe there's a dark agenda, which is fine if you do, um, the more you
There will
think,
always be a dark agenda.
exactly. And if I had a dark agenda of something, how do I say this? If you feel there's a dark agenda, right? And you're giving your energy to it and you're like, oh my God, you're filling your time and your life with like all these, I don't want to say conspiracy theories because a lot of it's true, but like these other things, right? You are not in your center. You're not in your love and your source. If it's bothering you, what is in this dark agenda world, right?
Right.
You're not ascending. If you're doing it just to kind of learn, to see, like, to get a perspective or to like get an understanding, to have more compassion for people that are very stuck in this denser world, that's awesome.
Yep.
But if you're fueling, like, I can't believe they're doing this, I can't believe it's like, notice the
You're
energy.
feeding it. Right.
Yeah.
You're feeding your, because as we discussed, everything's energy. So when you're being triggered by it and then you're reacting to it, you are projecting that same energy, that same thing that you're wanting to shift out of, really. Yeah. And there, to me, like what you're explaining, like there's a big difference with being aware of the dark agendas versus being sucked into them and allowing them. Now when you have this awareness, right, and we all go through these stages 1000%. As the more we awaken, we go through these stages of, like, when you start to really unravel the darkness that we have been manipulated to not see. It's pretty intense. It's intense. And of course, what comes with that? All your fears, right? But that's what's kind of supposed to happen, because it's bringing also all of your fears to the surface. So you can, like Sam was saying, what are your thoughts telling you? What are your feelings telling you? They're telling you something that you are still holding on to. They're messengers. They're here to tell us what has been unconsciously controlling us for so long. And so, when you can really just start to, like, shift your perspective of what darkness is. Again, we talk about it's fragmented light, it's information, it's knowledge coming to the surface, it's things that our souls know. Our souls knew this before we jumped in the chute. Like, we know this. That's why it's a remembering. It's not like we didn't know this coming down here. So, we all go through those phases of, like, massive fear when you start to wake up to all of the manipulation, the control that's in all of the systems. It's disgusting to wake up to. I mean, it's tough for the human. It's tough for the human, but our soul knows that we came down to remember this, because only in remembering that can we shift out of it. Only when we become aware of it can we shift out of it. We have to be aware of it, but there is a huge difference between being aware of it and then being sucked in and living in it. Because when you're living in it and you're trying to control what may come in the future because of what's happening, then you're not living in the now. You're not living in the present moment. You're not living in 5D. You're living in what you want to shift out of.
Mic drop, earth drop, God drop, creator drop, mic drop. Yeah. Like, couldn't have said it.
Boom.
Yeah, like fuck yeah, boom, awesome. Because yeah,
That just flowed through.
right.
Yeah.
It's right.
Yeah.
Because you, not you in particular, but like, for instance, so when she's saying like when you awaken to these things that control us. So Maria and I have done a lot of inner work, like, and I pretty much call her every single time I'm about to go through some really shit that I don't know what's gonna happen, but my physical human body is like, yo, you can't do this alone. Oh my God. That's why we also became coaches because we want to like support people and knowing like, yo,
You're not alone.
you're not crazy. We can help you. Because when I've connected to my own energy space, I've been brought to some really not pleasant visions and times where something's either happening to me or happening to the human collective. And I was terrified. I was like, I don't want any of this in my energy. Why when I connect to me is this being shown? And once I realized, oh my God, I'm coming from fear, that's not a high vibration, that's not a source, that's a ego, whatever energy. I was able to, with Maria on the phone and, on Zoom and stuff, when we do things, I was able to then put myself in that, whatever I was seeing's footsteps, right? Like, so with our patients, when they're sick, I would always put myself in their shoes to have a compassionate, come from a compassionate place for them. And so when I would do that with fear things that I was seeing that was making me fearful in my human body now, I was like, wait a second. And when I switch roles and I go into it, I actually have so much compassion for it. And I see it totally different. And I see that a lot of the shit that's happened in our lives that have controlled us and oppressed us really just needed love.
Mhm.
But when we've always been in a love state or a high vibe, yes, things have tried to control us even more.
Mhm.
And that's also part of the new earth is realizing nobody can control us anymore unless we give them power to control us.
Yep.
And when I realized that, my whole world was like flipped upside down because I'm like, I don't have to fear that. Like, if I fear it, then it has control over me. And then I'm back in a cycle of worry. Worry is not present. Worry is not love. Worry causes illness. Fear
Yep.
causes illness. You know what doesn't cause illness? Love.
Yep.
Love doesn't cause it. And with a lot of the darker things that Maria and I have encountered, even when we do readings for people, like it's intense shit. But
Yep.
we bring the healing gift forward, right? We bring our guides in. We bring in spirit because we're not afraid to connect with spirit. That's another thing that when we're growing up, they have all these movies and shows and books like that make you afraid of clowns and witches and like ghosts. It's like, so you're from birth, you're ingrained to like think that
Fear.
energy and spirit's bad. Yeah, like come on, it's not, right? It's just how you look at it and what do you give it, And I don't know, when we really can tap into what is perceived as bad and we show it love, we really heal.
Mhm.
And that then transcends out to heal people in our life. And we're like, me and Maria would be like, oh my God, they said that? Really? Wow, it's working. Wait, oh my God. Because we learned we cannot fix any.
Anyone.
Nope. We can give you the
And
tools. We can give
and
you
that's a human program in every single one of us. Like everyone I've worked with, talked with, everybody feels drained because their focus and attention and power is on the external. They're giving it away. They want to heal, fix, change, save everybody else but themselves. And that is why empaths walk around feeling drained, living in this like self-victimized mindset. I do for everybody but myself. Well, that's problem number one. And It's what we've been programmed to do. It's not that it's bad. It's just that becoming aware that that is truly a program in all of us. It's a distraction. It's a distraction to focus on everybody else and try to help them than to sit and do the inner work that causes pain and suffering inside yourself. But it's the only way you're going to move that out of you. We're all in pain and suffering, right? Many of us are unconsciously in pain and suffering every day of our lives. I was for many years till I hit my rock bottom and woke up and was like, what? Like, I've created every disease in my body. I'm a nurse and I have like every disease, every ailment. And like, I had to get to that point. I had to be like sick of my suffering to realize, oh my God, I'm like suffering. I'm like toxic. I'm putting out like toxicity and I don't even know it. Like putting on this brave, happy, fake face throughout the day, but yet energetically I'm putting out toxicity because inside I feel toxic, I feel diseased, I feel sad, I feel angry, I feel all of these normal human things, but I'm not allowing myself to feel them really. I'm not allowing myself to express them. So now my body is holding on to them and now I manifest disease, physical disease. I've been diagnosed, you name it, with so many different autoimmune diseases over the years. And that was my awakening. That was my what I would say my first awakening was to all of this. And it's actually a gift, right? Like to be 20 something years old, not be able to zip my pants because my fingers are so swollen, I can look back and say, that's a gift. That was all a gift. And this is what we're talking about, shifting our perspective of our traumas, of our pain, our downfalls, our whatever, all the bad things in our life, right? When you can start to see the gift in it, that's when you shift out of it. It's not trying to make it go away. Like we just want everything to go away. Everybody I talk to is like, I just want it gone. I just want this feeling gone. I just want this illness gone. Oh yeah, I know, we all do. But the more you're putting that out that you just want it gone, unfortunately, you're actually perpetuating and magnifying it instead of just allowing whatever it is to be and move through you. And for me, my biggest go-to phrase every time I'm starting to feel myself getting sucked into that like that human guck is like everything is energy. It's all just energy. It's here to experience and to move through. That's it.
Yep.
But when we fight it, when we try to ignore it, hide from it, resist it, we actually intensify it.
Mm-hmm. We do.
Yep.
And a lot of people are experiencing now more than ever, and you can blame it on the pandemic, fine. But I think the pandemic was a gift.
Yep.
Um,
I
Samantha,
said that from the
yeah,
I knew it. I'm like, oh my God, this is gonna be a spiritual awakening for so many people.
yep.
It's gonna be a shit show, but
Because it makes people take a look at themselves, makes them take a look at their relationships, if you decide to. If you're one of those people that's avoiding, then that's exactly what you need to look at, by the way, to help you shift. But another topic. What was I gonna say? I regress.
the pandemic, it being a gift.
So a lot of people are more than ever like suicidal ideation, anxiety, depression, like I'm
Mm-hmm.
stuck. Every single majority, 99%, I'm stuck. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay. And it's funny because like I know why you're stuck, but like hold on and go in because you can't just tell someone this is why you're stuck, like because the energy and blah blah blah. So your soul is literally screaming to you to heal parts of you when you're in those anxiety, depressed, I'm stuck, I don't know what I'm doing in my life, I'm going crazy. It's because your soul, your higher self, as Maria's saying, that pillar, right? Like that light up there that dropped you down, that light up here is connecting to you and saying, hey, what's been going on isn't working, and it's not working anymore. And like, yeah, a doctor can give you a pill to like shut off receptors in your brain, but that just numbs you even more. And then your soul is still contacting you, it's still sending that energy down into you. So now you're going to manifest different illnesses in you until you listen to what your soul is saying to you.
Mm-hmm.
because we can all heal ourselves, people.
Oh, yeah.
Once we listen,
Oh, yeah.
once we listen to that light Maria's talking about up here, right? That goes down into all of us, whether it comes into your third eye, your heart, wherever it comes through. Um, so when you're stuck, it's like, okay, you pause and you're like, well, why am I stuck? What's this energy? And then you kind of go back, like, when was I not stuck? And then what was your emotion when you weren't stuck? What were you doing in your life, right? Where was the flow? Because there comes to a point where you either become afraid of something or you don't feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those is what makes you feel stuck. So to tap into there, because like when we feel stuck, that's when we start to have anxiety, worry, depression, right? And those are the exact symptoms of ascension, I feel, and like ADD and mental illness. Like
Yep.
it's because all of your parts are literally fucking talking to you at the same time and you're having this like war, and a pill is not going to stop it. It might help the symptoms until you get like proper help, with like maybe a shaman or someone who understands energy, or a therapist that does like psychotherapy and like all different types of modalities. um but that's also part of the new earth, is like looking at earth with new eyes and knowing that earth heals us. We wouldn't have been put into earth knowing that we were part of creating it and creating our human bodies if earth didn't give us the medicine to heal.
Correct.
And now more than ever, all of our stuff is filled with chemicals. Like, yeah, I drink
Mm-hmm.
energy drinks here and there. Like, there's chemicals in it. I'm aware. But like, I bless it before I drink it. But 'cause it's about thought, putting into it, like your love. And if you look in other countries, a lot of the stuff that's in the US is banned in other countries. And a lot of other countries use natural herbs and remedies and, the
Yep.
ancient medicine. So that's part of the new art too, returning back to the root of what medicine really is. Because medicine is love, it's compassion, it's nature, it's perspective, it's intention. Medicine is not a pill, unless
Nope.
that pill is filled with like turmeric, basil, pepper, and
Exactly.
zinc, right? Like
Exactly.
nature.
Because the pills, from what I have experienced in my personal taking of all the medications I was on, my husband used to shoot me up with Humira and all those shots, right? Like, trust me, I've been on many things, and I've also administered many things. And to me, it just numbs it. It just numbs the pain. It just numbs whatever the situation is. But this is why we have such a diseased population. We've got, as Sam mentioned, chemicals and every toxins and everything that they've made. But put that aside too, like, it's our own shit that we're carrying that's causing so much of our own internal stress, right? And the fact that we just want something to make it go away is perpetuating that suffering even more, because we're trying to find the quick fix. And that's not what the soul came down to do. The soul came down to learn and experience things, quote unquote, sometimes the hard way. But that's how you evolve, right? You don't evolve by taking the pill. You don't. It just numbs everything that you're trying to not look at. And it's going to keep manifesting in one way, shape, or form if you keep trying to numb it. I spent many years trying to numb my pain, trust me, and didn't work. And now that I allow myself to actually feel my pain, it moves through me so much faster. It moves through, and then I can see the silver lining. I can see the lesson that the pain, the trauma, the sadness, the fear was teaching me, which is so much more empowering than any medication I've ever taken. Even if the medication, quote unquote, worked, I never have felt this happy and healthy in my entire life. And it's not just me saying that. And people that read energy can feel that from me. They know that. Like, it's no joke. So
Mhm.
yeah, we can heal ourselves. And it's funny because I did do a channeling yesterday from the earth, for our
Yeah,
meditation.
doing
And
it.
it was all about, like, Mother Earth heals herself. We are part of her. We have that same innate capability to heal ourselves, no matter what disease it is, no matter what disease our body has manifested. Because again, understand like it's your body can only hold on to those lower density vibrations for so long before it does manifest something. But also your body manifesting a disease is a gift because it's now bringing your shadow right to the surface to be like, look, you've been ignoring this for a long time. So now the body is just like, the vessel can only take so much of those vibrations before it actually manifests a disease. And the disease, the way when we're diagnosed with something, it's like a death sentence. It's like we are immediately, our whole demeanor changes when we are labeled with the disease. And when you can start to see the disease as a gift, as a messenger, just like your thoughts are, just like your emotions, that's how you heal it. That's how you return to that accepting energy, that 5D, that love, that light that has the capability of healing anything and everything that you allow it to.
Hmm. Yeah. I've fucked my whole body is fucking chills. I because Maria did a fair and someone came up to her and said like something about your feet, right? You need to ground more into the earth, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I did the fair in, I won't say where, but when I did a fair, um, after I was sitting there and um, Kevin was trying to GPS like find where we are gonna eat, and all of a sudden I was in a high vibe, right? And I get in the car and I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel heavy. I'm like, what the hell? And old me, since I didn't, if I started to feel that way, I would have immediately tried to distract myself, or I would have went out and drank, or like other people would have smoked, like, like chain smokers, or like whatever to numb that. Because I was feeling, and I was like, what is this? And then I saw the grass and I heard Maria in my head tell me that story. And I was like, Earth, Earth, I need to be Earth. And I was like, Kevin, drive. And he's like, where are we going? I was like, just drive over there. And so I went and it was, I went and I laid on the grass and I took off my shoes and I had my feet, and like I'm in a parking lot. Everyone can see me and I don't give a fuck because I'm like, okay, there's a reason. I'm listening to my intuition. That's also part of the new earth. Like listening to your intuition and just doing it and not giving a fuck what other people think.
Think.
And he was like, what are you doing? I'm like, just. So I went and I laid on the grass and I just put my hands down on the grass. No, I had my palms up actually and had my feet in the grass and I had my spine flat on the grass. And I said, Earth, take whatever heaviness I'm feeling from me. And I love you for doing that. Thank you. And then I just called in like the elements above me to just come down. And I shit you not, I started like convulsing. I was seeing all these um, they were black, I'm not gonna lie, black things just coming, but it was just like attachments just coming out of me. And um, like when Maria and I do work, I don't know about you, but I always see if there's an attachment in somebody or something that's not there or lower energy, it's black because we're actually just light, right? So that's how I know it's someone else's shit. So not that they're black, but you know what I mean, their energy. But I felt it coming out of my back and going, and I saw the earth like pulling it out of me, and I'm like shaking, and I'm like, everyone can see me, and I don't care because I need it out of me because I kept hearing the word cancer, cancer, cancer because I had cancer in February, and when I connected to it, it was everyone else's energy that caused my cancer.
Which she healed, by the way.
Yes, I did. Thanks to your help too. And in my awesome surgeon, because she was awesome and she let me be woo woo. Um, but
Yep.
like super woo woo. But that's the power of earth, right? I'm like, wait, I'm feeling this heavy shit. Who can save me right now? Like, because I can't understand this, but I know that it's something. I'm aware. And earth took it from me. Like I felt it leave my body. And then next thing I know, Kevin's laying next to me. And he's like, it's fucking cold laying here. And I'm like, is it? I don't know. Cause like I was just releasing. And then he's like, oh, it feels so good. I'm like, yeah, earth, it has all this electricity to heal our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why like grounding, I've never realized the importance so much. I'll tell people
Yep.
it, I don't do it. I do it now. Like, because you lay on the grass and earth and you just trust that it's taking your shit, and it is. And then you give thanks to it. And
Yep.
because it knows how to transmute that energy more than anything else. Because if I didn't,
She's so used to that. Like, she's used to, when you think of how many, in linear time, how many centuries we've been living in, or Earth has had a reality of low dimension, low vibrations, right? She's literally used to it. She know it's like she's a master at being able to transmute it. And that's what she told me in the thing. It's like she's a master at it. She doesn't fear it. She's like, that's what I'm here for. Like,
mm,
so yeah, when we connect with her, it's powerful shit. It's
yeah,
powerful shit.
and that's part of the new earth to use her in the way that like it's a partnership, it's a unity. If
Correct.
she knows what we're doing is also it's we're empowering people, we're channeling, we're getting divine healing messages and guidance and energy for people to help their vibration on earth. So she's
Mm-hmm.
like, let me take that lower shit that you just felt from them, that they're unconscious, that you just pulled from them. Let me take that from you because I know what you're doing is for the better and for the good. And I just saw this as you were talking. So let's say this is one Earth. I just saw holograms of more Earths growing around it. So not like
Mm-hmm.
counting down, but like, and then each one is a higher vibration.
I'm
So
getting such chills.
yeah.
Yep.
So like if you
Like hardcore.
in science, right, they teach you about like the core of the earth, the crust, where like the lava is, right? Well, well, that
Let's
never
just put it this way, the way we've been taught.
that never made sense to me
Yeah.
ever. Because I'm like, it just doesn't fucking make any sense, but whatever. Um, so I was just showing if you look at the crust of Earth, like you learn in science books, which I mean, mm, and then
Mm-hmm.
hologram, hologram another Earth over it, another Earth, another Earth, another Earth, right? And there's just like it's light. It's like taking graph paper and folding it over, right? And then
Right.
putting the holes through.
Right.
It's like, oh, I can travel through all of these levels,
Yep.
and the higher I go, the more healing I can get because I'm becoming more aware of what Earth really is
Right.
and who I really am and like what a human really is. A human is here as a skin suit or muscle meat or whatever to live and experience being human, to raise the consciousness. And I don't even know where we go anymore when we die, but doesn't matter right now. But
Yeah, that's a topic for another day.
I just realized I was like, wow, I just saw Earth like that. That's really cool. And I was like, wow,
Yeah.
because like the lower one, if you think of it being the crust or the hotness of Earth, it's like explosive. Like you need it to have fire in order to fuel the other levels of the Earth.
Correct. Correct. And
Like,
that's funny because that goes right with a journey that I did probably like, well, now it's been 2 years or a year and a half. And it was basically, it was when I merged with the creator. And
oh,
I was pretty much shown what you just like described, basically like that we need the low dimension. We need this lowest dimension Earth for all the other ones to exist and vice versa. Because again, we go back to one single light spectrum manifesting into multiple different realities, but it's all stemming on the same single wave of light, really, right? It's just different vibrations within this same single light. So it's like how she saw the earth. There's the core earth, and then there's all these other earths, but it's all just the different vibratory realities of earth, which goes back to again creating this new earth. We're not creating, it's created, it's already there. We are now moving ourselves, we're shifting ourselves to the reality of it, because we've lived, many of us, majority of us have lived in high vibrational earth. You've heard of Atlantis, you've heard of Lemuria, those are higher vibrational versions of earth that many of us that are watching this, that don't watch this, have lived. We have lived. We are living on those. So like they already exist. These new earths already exist. It's bringing these lower density skin suits up to match the vibration of it, to experience that reality of it. Yeah.
Yeah, these
Badass.
suits.
These skin suits.
And I'm trying to find my one with going to creator because it was very similar, and that's why journaling is so important. Um,
Yeah, that one was profound because it was like that was really, I feel like, when I was shown, quote unquote, what I refer to as the higher perspective. I say that a lot. That is when I was really shown it because I was like, oh my God, like we need all of this. Yeah, here it is. Um, we need all of this, and it also goes back to like the energy of love. This is what I learned in it. I wrote, love embodies all truths, all realities. And like I did a horrible drawing of it because had just come out of like trance, but it basically was like how like there's this divine source up here, right? And then we all just drop down into lower vibrations to experience it all. And we must embrace the dualities that we create to return and remember our truest form, is what I wrote. So it's like we created all these crazy little Earths and all these and other planets, obviously, other than just Earth that we learn on.
yeah,
And then we kept dropping down lower and lower and lower in frequency, in vibration, to learn harder lessons, to learn different lessons, right? And then we start moving back up again. And then as we move up, then we move up to the higher vibrations, and we're still learning in those realms as well. It's a totally different, what's the word I'm looking for? What's that thing that they give you at the beginning of a semester? Your syllabus. It's just like a whole different syllabus of learning when you
hmm
hit another dimension or another vibratory path. Like the learning never ends, right? But the lessons are just different. They evolve as we evolve.
yep. And it's yeah. And I just found my thing, and it was where we had to go to the creator and then ask for a symbol that represents the creator. So mine starts off with a black and white vortex that then turns into these black and red balls of roses. And I had to put them on me, and then I just started dropping down from like this black and white vortex, like you just similar to what you just showed the picture of. And then I changed colors as I dropped down this spiral vortex, and I realized that I was merging through different elements until I became this golden star that then dropped into different shapes, numbers, and I wrote down all of these in order to help me survive, similar to physics. And then I was made into the sun, the water, the earth, the air, into millions and millions of other beings and people. And then I was handed a Merkaba, which is funny because that's what I use now, but a Merkaba, and in it I saw everybody in it, and then like I would pull one out and it'd be um like another element, and then like it vibrated differently in my hands. That's really cool because I'm like
It
seeing,
is cool.
yeah, and that each place that I went to, because each place was a different color, um, had different people in my life on it. So like the blue planet, that was the water planet to me, planet was just had like my nana and stuff, and then depending on where I went, it just had different people. So which is basically our soul contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I also just thought of that when we psychopomp, which is crossing people over that are kind of stuck souls, I feel like we're just going to, if you look at the earth here in the holograms, I feel like we're just going to like a different density and bringing them into the actual physical, that it's not actually past lives, or it's like actually happening right now,
Yep.
you know? Because people are like,
Yep.
oh, it's just like my life. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, I think it is your life just on a different dimension.
Different timeline of your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where the shit starts to get crazy. The different timelines Sam and I have seen. I have a whole new perspective, when I first started learning and remembering a lot of this stuff. Like again, everybody's teachings of these things is different timelines. So I had like sort of my own belief and perspective of what different timelines are. But now Spirit actually has shown me other timelines of me in this same skin suit. So I've obviously seen other lives that appear to be past lives based on whatever linear time period they're showing me. But I've also been shown other timelines of Maria Gingras' existence. And I've also seen them for Sam. I've seen them for other people. And it's like, whoa, so this is what they mean when we're shifting timelines. We're choosing a different path because there are so many earth realities and we're on them and we're experiencing them. So many of the lessons that we're experiencing on all of them are karmically tied. Like they're the same kind of lessons. And Sam and I have kind of talked about this before. Like to me, this current reality is the one that feels most real because I'm sitting here on a Zoom and recording a session, right? Now, I sit here and say this, there might be a me saying that in another dimension. Nonetheless, this is the one that feels most real to me. So, this is the one that I can have the most impact on, which energetically shifts all of those other ones I'm connected to. So, this is the one where I'm doing my healing work. I'm learning from all of those other realities, those other timelines, and saying, I don't really want to repeat that lesson. I don't really want to keep reliving that one, but I see how it's manifesting in this life. So what can I do differently in my life here to change that, to change what's happening around me, to me, in me? Like it all comes down to what can I do to empower myself and change my reality here. And it all goes back to healing myself, healing those things, changing my perspective. And energetically, that shifts all of those other realities that I believe are also simultaneously happening.
Yep. And when Maria and I connected to the energy of my cancer, and I ended up releasing all of these attachments that, whether were people that met me or not, or places, um, or collective, um, Hollywood and stuff. Anyways, I realized after how numb I felt because I was always feeling everyone else's shit. That once we released it, and I said to her, I was like, I feel numb. And then like my dog died, and I was like, I just feel numb. Like I don't even know. And I was like, what do you like? And I asked her for, support. And then she saw me on another earth in coma. And like I was a drug addict, but I was in coma.
Getting
Yeah.
chills again.
And she saw all these bags above me, and she started putting green light and like healing because she was like, Sam wouldn't want all these medicines. Like, what the hell is this? So she started transmuting it. And when I went in for my surgery, but like knowing that, it scared me. But it didn't scare me. I was just like, oh shit, like I'm in a coma in another life. That explains why I feel like nothing, because I released everything that wasn't mine, that I've never felt in this life, my own feelings. Like I didn't even know what sadness felt like to me. I knew what everyone else's sadness felt like. So when she told me about this, and we saw me on another life, because then I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I'm numb there and I feel numb here. But there, I tried numbing it all out. And right now it manifested as cancer. And I'm like, holy shit. And
Mm-hmm.
it shifted my whole like understanding of life. Cause I'm like, that just resonates. And then when I went in for my surgery, like I called in that part of me from that life, and I was like, join me in this surgery. Let's heal together, girl. Let's do it. Like, let me show you a whole new world that's higher and loving vibes. And then when I woke up from the surgery, the first thing I saw was her standing at a window looking out, and it was bright. And she just was looking out, and I'm laying in the bed. And I remember the surgeon or whoever came over and was like, how you doing? I'm like, look at me over there. I'm just so happy. They didn't know what the hell I was talking about. But I also was under anesthesia for way longer than I was supposed to, because I set the intention before going in to go to those lives, to go to any other life where I was also stuck in and numb, to raise my vibration like into this reality that Marina is talking about right now. Because if we have all of these lives playing, if we're not aware of that, that's also the reason why we have these anxiety moments and these like parts talking to us, because it's like, why am I feeling that way? Like, why am I thinking that? Well, because on another plane, another
Mm-hmm.
dimension, you are doing that. And
Mm-hmm.
that goes back to deja vu. Like,
Yep.
deja vu is literally when you're doing the same thing or you're feeling the same thing on each dimension. I feel like at the same time.
Yep.
Whoa, this hit
Yep.
notes. But
Yep.
Google doesn't tell you that because no one really knows what deja vu is, but
Right.
I think that's what it is.
I 100% agree, especially because like you and I now have the perspective of it's not a past life, it's all simultaneously happening. So it's like, yeah, if you think it's happening in multiple realities, of course you're going to have this like moment where you're like, wait a second, like where you're like checking in almost with yourself, like, what? I've done this before. No, you're doing it right now in 12 other places. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And I remember at the beginning of February, my new moon reset, the moon told me it was resetting pain for me, and I didn't understand it. And then when we did that session with myself, where I felt numb and then everything and becoming aware of everything, I allowed myself to feel pain. I allowed
Yep.
myself to feel sadness. And I was like, and I would text Maria every second. I'm like, this is what sadness feels like? Ugh. Like, ugh.
That
But
sucks.
yeah, I was like, oh my God, I have so much pain, but not physical pain. It was like emotional pain. But it was so beautiful because it was my own emotions and no one else's. And I allowed it to flow through me. And I see life so much different. And it was a gift. Like so much has happened since then, too. That
Hmm.
made me shift and really understand the importance of surrendering to ourselves in the time of when we're feeling something and not being sucked up by what we're feeling, but being a witness to what we're feeling, right?
Yep. Yep.
We're
It's
sucked.
just allowing it to be whatever it is, whatever you're feeling, whatever you're thinking. It goes back to like, don't resist it, don't try to change it, right? Like just listen to it, feel it. What is it telling you? What's the message? There's always a message. And we have been programmed to tune out anything that feels uncomfortable. We don't like pain. Humans don't like it. We've been taught to distract ourselves and shift out of it and get out of it. And like in the reality of it, I look at the majority of people, they all look like they're in some serious freaking pain, whether it's mental, emotional, or physical. You haven't really shifted out of it by trying to numb it. Like, and again, I know it from my own journey. Like it doesn't work. But I think the other thing too, I just want to like mention when we talk about all these other dimensions and realities that are simultaneously happening, like we focus a lot on the trauma and the pain from them, but there's also these amazing gifts that we get to pull from these other realities. So kind of like Sam was saying, when you have deja vu, it's also the same thing when all of a sudden you're just like pulled to go try something. You don't know why, or you're pulled to like start creating something new. You have no idea why. It's because in another dimension you are. In another dimension you are an artist, you were a singer, you were all that you have. We have so many gifts that we also have in all of these other realities, because we're learning in all of them as well. Like it's not all trauma and pain. Like a lot of what we focus on, especially in the beginning of the healing journey, that's what comes up because that's what has to come up before we can see the gifts. But there's so many gifts that can be pulled from all of these realities. And that's like the cool thing about starting to become aware of our multidimensional being that we really are. Like we don't just have to like work on all the painful shit. Like there's like awesome things that we can tap into. And I believe that that's why I'm able to do what I'm able to do with channeling and talking to spirit, because I know I've done it in many other dimensions. So it's sort of like one of those innate gifts that I just needed something to spark that remembering. And it's like it you allow it to flow and come, and it does. And it's really all about allowing yourself to receive those gifts, because we all have amazing gifts that we've experienced and brought forth in these other dimensions. So it's not all the shit that we're trying to heal everywhere. It's also like pull from those realities. Like Sam was telling me she's making candles one day, and she's like, I'm just gonna pull in my candle maker from
Yeah,
another reality, and like
good.
boom, boom. She didn't know anything about making candles in this reality. Boom.
Nope. When I
Set the intention, believe that it's gonna happen, and boom.
when I started drawing, I remember Maria asked me like, "Oh, you're an artist," and I was
I
like,
was like, "You're an artist? Oh my god!" And you're like, "No, I couldn't even draw a stick figure like a year ago." I'm like, "What?"
but it's that flow state and it's that knowing, hey, I can do this and I'm gonna trust that I can do it. And it doesn't need to be perfect because a lot of artists and people that do things, it has to be perfect. Or I just have to, oh, I can't do it. Like people don't, I'm, I'm guilty of this. Like couldn't finish something because like, oh, it's not perfect. And it's like, who put this expectation on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who did it? Because
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't satisfy one person. It's not going to satisfy another person. The only person it matters to satisfy is yourself. So
Yep.
once you realize that and you're like, okay, can I just channel, and if you don't know what channel means, that's okay. But it's like, can I just channel my storyteller, my creative writer? Can I the person that like isn't afraid of heights, right? Like I feel like we can pull from all of these dimensions we're
We
aware,
can.
right?
Yep.
And our health from different dimensions
Yep.
and bring it in and like be whole. Like that is, I believe is the highest level of consciousness is when we're the whole, we realize we are limitless beings. We
Yep.
can do anything and we can be anything we want.
Hmm.
And I just want to go real quick before we end about holding space. Holding space really just means being silent, which a lot of us have trouble doing.
Same. Can fully admit we all think we're great listeners. Probably doing it right now.
I was gonna see if you could hold 7 seconds of silence and you couldn't, see?
See, I was supposed to do it to prove to all of you that see how quickly you want to speak. That was meant to happen that freaking way. It's totally meant to happen. I'm like, holy shit, as I'm talking, I'm doing it. This is awesome.
Spirit was like, oh.
And she failed.
Yeah, they're like,
This is what you don't do when you're trying to hold space.
yeah. Exactly. Oh,
But see, it couldn't have been any more perfect.
I was just trying to make all of you awkward for 7 seconds, and she just diarrhea of the mouth squirrel. But
Not holding space,
yeah.
wanting to speak, because that's what we all freaking want to do. Yep.
Mhm.
That's not holding space.
And if we are with people that like they start crying and it makes us uncomfortable, why does it make us uncomfortable?
Right.
Yeah, that's when it's like brings the mirror up. If someone's reacting and they're angry and like they're being disruptive, but they're not hurting anyone, they're just like let's throw something. Yeah, you don't want to be in that energy. I get it. But what about you? Can you learn from that? Like, why is that
Mm-hmm.
triggering you? And that's not really holding space, but well, I guess it is because you're not, instead of
It
being
is. You're allowing them to express and just be in whatever energy they need to be in without taking it like it's at you or yeah.
yeah,
So it is still holding space. Yeah.
yeah, okay, good. And then when also so the other night Maria and I just have to tell this real quick. Me and her and Kevin were sitting there and we were talking about wisdom. Wisdom is also very important with the new earth because wisdom has many meanings, but we were talking about wisdom. The carbon dioxide thing went off and it was one bell and then all of a sudden it was a very loud
Yeah.
weird sound and I all of a sudden Maria was on Zoom, Kevin was sitting next to me. She knew immediately what was happening. I didn't know what was happening with me, and because she had seen it already in the meditation that I was channeled. And so I'm sitting there and I'm screeching and I'm like, oh my fucking god. And I realized I'm resisting. I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna let go. What's happening? In my entire body, I felt like I was in a cage. I couldn't move. I was on the couch and I couldn't move. I felt like I was being burned. I felt like someone was gouging my ears out. I couldn't see anything. But I knew I was safe because I knew Maria was on the Zoom. I knew where I was, but I was actually out of my body staring at myself and then seeing myself somewhere else, like three places at once. And I couldn't fathom what was happening and I realized I just needed to move through me. And Maria was on Zoom. She wasn't talking, but she thought she was talking and I thought she was talking, saying it's safe, it's safe, it's safe. Kevin confirmed she wasn't talking.
I'm like, are you sure? He's like, you weren't talking. I'm like, I wasn't speaking out loud. Are you positive? He's like, you weren't. I'm like, how did she hear me? And I'm like, duh, she heard me telepathically, but
Yeah,
like, what?
yeah. And Kevin held space for both of us. So I thought Maria was holding space for me because I'm hearing her say, I'm safe, I'm safe. I can't open my eyes because I feel like I don't have any eyes. I literally felt like I was being torched, like burnt. And it was horrible. And I was fine right before that.
Yeah.
And so I thought she was holding space. Meanwhile, she's in it with me, whatever I'm going through. Kevin who has no fucking idea what's going on. He's getting saging us, walking around.
Not saying a word. Meanwhile, she's like contorted on the couch. Like anybody else would have walked in, would have been like, "What the fuck?"
Yep. And I was like, and I was making noises and like, yeah. And he didn't stop the process. And he allowed it. That's the power of holding space, not stopping what's happening, not trying to control it, but by surrendering and being like, just gonna let it go. I don't know what's happening right here. He even cracks open a beer and like sits down as I'm like, being wherever the fuck I am. And he heard I had to sage the bed too. He went and saged the bedroom. He saged everything. Even my dog Lily, who's scared of everything, was dead asleep. So I'm like, am I
Yeah.
in a different timeline? Like, it was like time was frozen, but it wasn't. And then Maria saw where we were.
Yes. We were in essentially like concentration camps in these like they were like storage containers is what it seemed like storage wars type of thing. We were in like so very very tightly packed in as kids, and they were using like sound as psychological warfare as they did in Nazi time. I didn't necessarily know it was that time period, but it felt like concentration camps, and it was psychological warfare. Same thing they're doing right now, but using music and sound. And it was so as soon as she started, like I was being shown that, and then I was like there with her, and I was, oh God, like they're using this. And then I did think my physical self was doing it, but Kevin validated no. I started singing, like, and it's like that's what I was doing in this storage locker to help offset the sound. I was like singing to Sam, and I just kept doing it and doing it and doing it, and then eventually, like the energy moved through her. I don't have no idea like time frame how long it took, but to kind of just go back to like Kevin's holding space, it was just like it was powerful because like what Sam said, he didn't try to shift her out of it. He didn't try to like, oh, you'll be okay. Like nothing. He said nothing during the whole thing, right? And like anybody that would have witnessed this would have been freaking out. He trusted. That's the other thing. He trusted us to be able to navigate whatever was happening. He didn't need to come in and protect. He trusted that we had it. He knew we did. And we also trusted him. So it was like, whoa, this space holding thing is all about trust. It's about trusting that whatever the person is going through, they can handle it. They on a soul level, they came down to experience it. So this is another level of learning trust. Like you have to be able to trust that they're going to be okay. Because if you're worried and in fear for them, you're adding to that energy. You have to trust that they're going to be okay. And I had a very similar experience with my husband a couple weeks ago. The same day Sam was grounding on the earth. Literally, I'm fairly certain it was the exact same time. I'm here in sunny Arizona going through my internal shifts, and all of a sudden I started having excruciating right shoulder pain. Like, and I'm talking like pain and now all of my autoimmune stuff was all physical pain, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, you name it. Everything was joint pain, everything was inflamed. So I got very used to being in physical body pain. This pain was very different. It was like, and then all of a sudden I was being shown all of these very, very dark things that the human collective has experienced in all of our dimensions, not just this one, in all the timelines. And I was being told I was purging it. My physical vessel was being used to purge the collective. And similar to how Sam's mine came on out of nowhere. Nothing really triggered it. Nothing happened in my external reality that like made me start having this pain. But all I know is the pain started building, and then all of a sudden these emotions were coming out. And my husband came down and was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "I don't know." Like I could speak a little bit because I was trying to tell him what I was being shown, but I was also just trying to allow it to happen. And he did the exact same thing that Kevin did for you. He just like stood there. He stood there and like held my hand. He didn't try to shift me out of it. He didn't try to take it away. He didn't try to do anything. He was just there. And just his presence there, I felt safe. I knew nothing was going to happen to me. It was so uncomfortable what I was being shown and what I was feeling, but I knew I had to let it move through me. And to be able to have somebody stand there and physically be present and not try to change what I was going through was one of the most powerful experiences I've ever had, because I've gone through many of these purges by myself over the last few years. Just because I feel on some levels a lot of it I am to go through on my own to empower myself. But then there's also times where I don't want to bring people, because it's a lot. I don't want to bring people into that. I'm not trying to, but the way this all just played out was how it was supposed to be. And so I digress, but it goes back to, yeah, powerful space holders. That's how we alchemize and transmute shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the hardest things for the human to do, because the human wants to give advice. The human wants to take the pain away. This nurse wants to take people's pain away. I can't. I can't. And they don't learn anything when I take their path away from them. That's taking somebody's path away from them, and they won't learn.
Yep. Yep. And this goes into the whole wisdom piece because, you know, Maria and I, yeah, we're very connected, but spirit brings us on these like regressions or these visions of our loved ones, and we are not to share it with our loved ones. So when they're and at first I'm like, this is fucked up. Like, why are we being shown this? And I remember when I told Maria stuff about her family, and then we realized that was another way of holding space, because we now have this compassionate energy even more for the person when they start going through their shit, because a lot of times they don't know they're going through it, right? You don't know that you're going through your shit until you go through your shit, and then you look at it. But we know when people are going through it because we do it ourselves, but also like, it's part of our mission here. But like, it helped us hold space for them and to not react and to take in or fix or control.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that is really fucking hard. Um, but like that's part of also the consciousness and the new earth is allowing and then
All
trusting
of it.
to be okay. Yeah.
It's like really allowing, the Beatles song "Let It Be." It's true. It's like you have to like let it be, whatever it is, no matter how uncomfortable it is. This trying to change it only perpetuates it, and that trying to change it, again, it's a human program. It's so much of it is just a program in us that till you become aware that it's a program, you won't shift out of it. You'll keep doing it very unconsciously. So it's not a judgment on any of us. It's what we all do. And there is an aspect that it is coming from a caring place. We don't like to see people hurting, right? Like it's coming. It's not that it's all ego driven, but it's just that as the human, it's very hard to accept and realize that it's in the suffering that the healing happens. It's extremely hard to accept that. And like to go back to kind of what Sam was saying about spirit showing us things about our family members, yeah, it's not like we tap into their, it's not like we're looking for this information. It's always in relationship to us. It's part of like whatever our contract is with them, whether it's my mom, my dad, my brother, my husband, my friend, right? Like it's all about what my contract is with them. So it's like allowing me to be a better space holder when they start to go through things, like Sam was saying, without me giving, necessarily giving my advice or giving my opinion on what they should do. I was shown that this was coming because now I can be an effective empath that can just sit there and allow whatever needs to come up for them to come up for them without me trying to go in and change it and shift it and fix it and heal it, because I know I don't have that capability, right? Like there's healers out there that will say that they'll heal you, and I have a hard time with that because I believe that that's a very disempowering program to put into somebody else's mind, that they now need to go to somebody for a healing when we just talked for a half hour about how we can heal ourselves, right? So like I do have a hard time with when I hear that people heal people. I don't I identify as a healer because I've healed myself and I continue to heal myself. And then I in turn empower and inspire other people to use their gifts to do it for themselves. But I never use my energy to heal anyone. And when I'm doing healings on people, as Sam said, I am setting that very clear intention to be the hollow bone, that none of my energy is going into them and I'm also not receiving theirs. I may feel it sometimes, but I'm not absorbing it. I'm not getting an attachment. If you're on the hollow bone, you're not absorbing their shit and you're not giving them any of yours, right? Like it's really about channeling that higher energy, that light energy that you're intending to send for healing. But even that, it's not an automatic cure. Like people have to do their own work. We get messages that people are given tools and guidance, but it all comes down to every individual person and how much they want to put into their own soul healing evolution journey, right? Some people don't want to, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's literally nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we provide tools. We, when we are, this goes, so boundaries is another thing. When you can learn boundaries with relationships and people and circumstances, you find more self-worth. Like you look at yourself differently.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I don't have to do that because I don't actually want to do that. Guess what? You don't have to do it. Like, and with the healer, people that say that, um, or when people are like, why aren't you psychic? Don't you just know? Okay, well, in order for me to just know, I'm going to connect to your energy and bring myself into it. But I'm not invasive and I don't live in the external of wanting everyone's shit because that's what got me sick to begin with because I was unconsciously doing that. Now that I'm conscious of how
Mm-hmm.
much I can pick up other people's stuff, I feel like Maria said earlier, happiest than I've ever been in my entire fucking life. And because I've become so aware, and when you're one of those people, and if you are, it's fine, you just have to do more work. If you're one of those people that says, I will heal you, or you give people, you do a reading for someone and you have your own emotions in it, you're doing a disservice to being that hollow bone, to being that compassionate communicator. Um, and if you're taking on people's stuff or you're doing healing and you're not in alignment with that person, trust me, like for example, I can feel your energy if you're giving me your shit. Like if I'm getting, it's why I don't get a lot of work from people. It's not because I dislike getting work from people. It's trusting the right people to get it from because if you're not allowing yourself to be that hollow bone, we can take on what you're thinking and feeling as you're doing a healing or even a reading.
Yeah.
Like this person could be an amazing reader, right? But if they're not in their headspace, I can feel that and I know that they're not coming from a divine place that I don't. That's why Maria and I also don't do work when we know we can't become that hollow bone. And that's another boundary. It's like, fuck, like we're both don't have a systems job. We make money on our own now, right? So we have to show up for our clients, but at the same time, we can't if we're not. You can't be that hollow bone. That's a
Yep.
boundary. That's part of the new earth. Setting boundaries
Yep.
and respecting those boundaries for yourself. Like that is huge because that lets all of your parts know like you're worthy of having a boundary. And
Mm-hmm.
the right clients will understand that. And like energy transfers. That's why it's important to be the hollow bone. And
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I just have to say that about that because
No,
both,
I'm glad you said that because yeah, boundaries are something that we all need to work on. Myself, I say that because I'm talking about myself when I say that, and I see everybody as a mirror. Um, but I'm glad you use that as an example because Sam and I were nurses in the system, and anybody that watches this that's a nurse or in the healthcare system will resonate with this, right? in that role, in that profession, we're taught to suck it up, right? Like we could be feeling like shit. I worked shifts where I was puking at work and they couldn't get somebody to come in and I had to stay. So I have to take care of sick people while I'm sick. Okay, great. This is why the healthcare system's burnt out, or the healthcare professionals are burnt out, because they don't take care of themselves first, and then we're taking care of people. So these boundaries like that she's expressing that we have now with clients, like that was a hard thing at first to go cancel a client when I'm going through my own shit, because my nurse mind is like, you show up for people. They need this. They need this. Well, what about what I need? What about how I'm feeling, right? Like as a nurse, you're taught to suck it up. Many professions. I'm using this as an example because this is the one that we were in, and I know many people resonate. It's in a service type of environment. We're in a service kind of a profession as a nurse, right? We're serving humanity. We're serving the public. So we're taught to suck up our own shit, bury it, hide it, leave it at the door, and go deal with everybody else's, right? Well, I also learned that that's a lot of what helped me to manifest disease in my own body. I was unconsciously absorbing everybody's energy transfers, right? And not dealing with my own. So it was just like piling shit on top of shit inside of me.
Yep.
So now learning, I know better now, so I do better. Now when I have clients, and if I'm having an off day, and an off day can just be a matter of me having to do a lot of internal shadow work that has come up that was unplanned. It's usually always unplanned. And I know myself enough now that I can't get out of my ego. I can't get out of the human that needs to go through the experience. So I can't show up for somebody. I can't be the hollow bone. I'm not going to do them any service, right? Whether they're one of my coaching clients or I'm there to do a healing or reading, whatever it is. I cannot show up for them. Is it going to serve them? No. Is it going to serve me? No. Then what's the point? We cancel the session. And Sam and I have both gotten really, I think, good about honoring that, accepting it, not feeling guilty about it, and not really having an attachment. Like she said, the right clients will understand. And if they don't, then you don't need to feel guilty, because again, this is learning. These are unlearning old behaviors that we had, that we do stuff out of obligation. We don't do it from an authentic place. Hence why we have 95% of humanity walking around identifying themselves as an empath that can't be around anybody. They can't be around anybody. No, can't be around anything, can't be around anybody because they're an empath and they suck everything up. Well, I know. I fell into that little mindset when I was told I was an empath. I know it. I've gone through these stages, right? And for me, like that's it's another very disempowering thing. To me, empaths, we're all empaths. Empath just means you're in tune to energy. Well, guess what? We're all energy. And on some level, we're all affected and in tune to energy. We all are empaths. We all feel, right? But are we an empowered empath where we set healthy boundaries and don't consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously suck in everybody else's stuff and then avoid our own? Or are we empowered where we set these boundaries and know when we can first show up for self, then we can show up for other people? Like that's why boundaries are so, so important, because the majority of us have been giving from very inauthentic places. And when I say inauthentic, I mean like we're giving from guilt. We're doing things out of guilt. We're doing things out of obligation. We're doing things out of fear. We're doing things for others and ourselves based off of a lower vibration energy. But when you're doing it from love, it doesn't lie. That's felt inside of you, and it's felt in the people that you share it with. So boundaries, yeah. You want to become an empowered empath, like I think everybody probably does. Boundaries. Period.
And we're not taught that. We're not taught that ever. We're not taught any of
No, we're taught to go save everybody. Literally. We are literally taught to go save everyone from a very young age. And I'm not saying that there's not maybe some, like we're all sort of here to save humanity, but you have to save yourself. That's how you save humanity. You
yeah.
have to save yourself. You have to free yourself.
Yeah. And people are like, oh, it's selfish to do that. It's selfish like to this. And so I made a video on it. You guys can look it up. But it's like self is one word, self. Well, if you look up what ish means, it has this whole scale to it. And it really talks about like ish actually in like different terminology is being present. It talks about being present. So whoever put a spin on it was like, you're selfish for doing that. It's like, so now because I care about me, which is the word self, ish being present to myself, I'm bad. And
Right.
there's all these things with words that have put this lower density energy on it, and that's also part of the new earth, like recognizing the energy within the words where
Mhm.
the word bothers you, right? Like I make up words all the time because I'm about to start a new dictionary, but I'm always like, I'm making up words all the time. Kevin's like, that's not a word. I'm like, here it is. Here it is. um
You're probably not making them up. It's probably like your light language, so, in another dimension. Just saying.
oh, I like that one. um it's like, if you think about the word, if the word bothers you or a sound bothers you, right? Well, what's the meaning in that? Where that sound originate
Mhm.
from? Like that. And going back to the concentration camp thing, the sound, right? A sound's never triggered me like that before, but it brought me into another life that needed to have healing to waken up like my hearing better because I have a really hard time hearing. I don't listen to people unless I'm staring at you or like physically I have a problem. Since then, my concentration has been on fucking point. Like, so something hit,
So weird too. Concentration camp. Like, what the fuck? Just
right?
so crazy.
So,
But it's true. And the sound, again, when you're talking like, what was the intention behind that sound and that reality? It was not a good intention. So, of course, it's a trigger. So, it's just like what you're saying with words. Like, every word in our language has been manipulated by whoever you want to call them, the powers that be that enjoy fear consciousness, we'll just say that, those that enjoy living in a fear consciousness and projecting it, they have manipulated a lot of our words. But that doesn't mean that then you have to take on that meaning of the word, right? Because what's your intention behind it? What's the energy behind how the word is being used when you speak it? That's how you take your power back. That's when you, yes, you realize about how basically everything has been manipulated, but you don't now fall into this like despair about it. You now take your power back and go, all right, I'm aware that it's been manipulated, but I'm more powerful than that. I can shift it. I can shift the energy behind that word. I can shift the energy behind the meaning of that. I can set a different intention that changes the whole energy of that word and the meaning of it. And that's really, again, that's taking your power back and not allowing all these external things that we awaken to that were manipulated. They were. It's not being negative. It's just the reality of it. Like everything has been manipulated with a fear energy in it to keep us all enslaved in that to some degree. So when you start to become aware of these things that have been put into, like we were talking earlier, the toxins, the chemicals in everything, like you will probably want to like just run and hide somewhere because it's very overwhelming. And I can just share this little piece. We keep going, but hey, why not? That for me felt okay with me as I've awakened to how everything has chemicals and crap in it, right? Like it's a lot to then have to change in your own life, right? Like then that causes you to have to change things. Like I don't eat fast food anymore. I don't really eat much anymore. But then you don't want to use cleaning products. Then you don't want to, but are you still now, as you become aware of these things, ask yourself, why are you now changing what you're using? Is it now fear that's driving that decision? Because this is something I realized last year for myself, like the whole fluoride thing, right? We'll go there. The fluoride poisoning that has been going on for eons and closes our third eye, just saying. But, we've all been taught that it keeps our teeth all pearly bright and wonderful.
right?
And I remember I remember when I was like hearing about it, and it does. What is this? When you start to awaken, it brings up all fear, like and disgust at like that you were duped by the systems and that you fell for it, and then you're angry about it, and then you don't want to use these things because they're bad for you, right? Because they've been manipulated with toxins and chemicals that lower our vibration. But it was like I was being inundated with so many things at once that I was trying to make all these healthy changes that it was becoming very overwhelming. And then I was like, okay, I need to like take a step back and I need to just follow my resonance and what feels right. If I'm stopping using something because I'm afraid of it now, well, guess what? I am perpetuating that paradigm around it. I'm aware of it, but when I choose to stop using it, it's going to be because on some vibratory path, it doesn't resonate with me anymore to use it. It doesn't resonate with me anymore to eat meat. I don't judge anybody that eats meat. I can't even believe I would be say I loved prime rib, like I loved rare meat. All of a sudden, and trust me, I watched all the documentaries a couple years ago about our horrific food business that we have, what we do to the animals. We're eating the trauma of them. I was enlightened about all that, but I still ate. I still ate meat because I liked my meat. My ego liked its meat, and I was like, I can't change everything. Eventually, as you make these little changes in your life and you do raise your vibration, those things that have the lower vibration in them, you just don't want them anymore. There's no judgment around them, but your body and your mind just doesn't gravitate to it anymore because you realize it doesn't really feel empowering to eat this. Like I actually feel like shit when I eat this later. There's somebody, Eldora and Saman, if you people don't watch them, they're great. They talk about being intuitive eaters. And I was thinking of you, Sam, when I was listening to them, because they're like intuitive eaters. And they basically, whatever their body's telling them, like eat it, right? Like don't judge what you're eating. Oh, this isn't spiritual because you're just falling into the ego trap. What is your body, again, telling you, right? And sometimes we crave things that are sugary. Sometimes we crave things that are salty, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's what our nervous systems and all of these dimensions remember eating. Sometimes we found comfort in those things, right? So it's not bad. Eat it. Don't resist. It's the same thing as with your thoughts and emotions. Like don't resist these things. Allow them just to be part of the experience. Because as you shift, your energy and your vibration shifts. And when it does, the things that you do want change. It just starts to naturally happen. And you're not making all of your decisions based on this fear that, oh my God, there's something bad in that. Oh my God, there's something bad in that. I can't eat that. I can't, because that will send you in a whirlwind. I know because I was there and I've taken a step back. Now, am I more aware of food labels than I've ever been? Oh God, yeah. And it can be daunting. It can be a daunting task. But then as soon as I start to feel that like anxiety come up for myself, I go, okay, take a step back. Like I can only make so many changes at once. Because it is a lot to go through this shift, these evolutionary shifts. So just be gentle on yourself and try not to judge what you're feeling, doing, thinking. Just be aware of it. And what is that awareness teaching you about your behaviors, about your choices, about what your decisions? Are you making a fear-based decision? Because anytime you're making a decision that's rooted in fear, you're going to perpetuate that reality, which is why for me, like, I didn't immediately stop using certain things, even though I knew there was bad things in them, because I was like, no, I'm not going to give my power to the chemicals. I'm actually, when you're in your light, you realize you are stronger than any of this bad shit they're putting in. That you are. But you got to get into your light to realize that. You have to really be able to anchor that light into your body. And when you do, that's when you start to, you're like, I'm not going to change it because I'm afraid of it. I'm going to change it when it no longer resonates with me. And that's for me, like how I'm continuing to make healthy changes in my life, whether it's food, whether it's the cleaning products I use, whether it's the toothpaste, whether it's the deodorant. Like I'm making changes that resonate with my now moment and current path and the path moving forward. So yeah, I don't know. That just
Boundaries with yourself, though, right? What's not,
correct.
and you realize the anxiety was coming up. Boundary. Hold on. Like, because part of you was about to go in that OCD, because we all have all these parts of us, right?
Yes.
He was like, I'm going to OCD, I'm gonna go crazy, and like, and then the other part was like, whoa, 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 hold on a second, too much.
Slow it down.
That's boundary, and that's also the power of communication, communicating with yourself about things,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm.
and to raise our vibration. Yeah, a lot of the things that, yeah, there's not a lot of good stuff in there. I mean, we're not just gonna walk around and eat grass, right? I mean, we could, but we don't really want to. Um, but we can. if we're aware of the energy in our body and we're aware of our nervous system and like, the awareness part, right? And we shift our perspective, like Maria is saying, around what we eat, it doesn't cause the effect that it's supposed to. Does that make sense? Like what you're eating, like Maria said, you're stronger than that. So, and everything's in moderation. But like, I'm not going to say go out and drink like 20 bottles of Mountain Dew and then ginger ale with high fructose syrup and then chug a bottle of Listerine, right? That's not what I'm saying.
And think that you're going to feel great because you won't.
But it's like, hey, I'm a human, but I'm aware of my surroundings. I'm aware of what I'm putting in my body. So I'm just gonna like bless it and bless whatever energy was in it and just be like, just fill me with some nourishment. Like
Mm-hmm.
I believe that the more we raise our vibration, we can filter out the toxins so much faster. And when you go through these shadow or ego deaths, I would call them shadow awakenings to light and then ego deaths, your body goes through a lot of symptoms. You
Just a few.
flush things out, you sweat more, you have headaches, like your throat hurts, you have congestion because your body is energetically shifting to match a higher vibration of earth and of your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
That plays into where food that you used to like, you don't really like anymore. You don't need it anymore.
Right.
I used to say, I would die if I couldn't have cheese. Well, guess what, people? Not being able to have cheese when it was mostly milk and dairy. Now I can have a little bit of cheese, but I don't even crave it anymore. Like,
That's the thing. That's what I mean. Like it just naturally, when you just allow all of it to be, it naturally flows in the way that it's meant to. Instead of like making these judgmental decisions, these fear based decisions, it's like just do what feels empowering, what feels good, what feels uplifting to you, right? Like what feels healthy. And what feels good, and don't judge it. And because before you know it, things will just start to shift and you'll realize, oh, I don't even want that anymore. Like there's just not even a desire for it. There's no judgment against the people that want it or don't want it. Like it's just like, oh yeah, it actually just doesn't even resonate with me anymore. And that's literally what happened with meat with me. I didn't expect that to happen, like at all. I loved my meat, all kinds of meat. And I can happily say, proudly say, I do black bean burgers and tofurkey, and and it tastes just as good to me now. But again, it's like I'm at this vibration where now that resonates with me, so it actually tastes good. It's not like I'm forcing myself to even like it. I'm like, oh my god, it actually tastes good because I'm meeting the vibration of it versus I was meeting the vibration of the meat before. It's of course it tasted good because I was floating around in the same shit, basically. Yeah.
yeah. When you raise your vibration, you realize you're not hungry as much
Oh
anymore.
yeah.
And like, I remember asking Maria one time when she went to her first day of fair, like her fair, the whole day. And I was like, so did you eat before it? And she goes, no, but I'm starving now. And I've realized that if we eat before we do sessions, like unless it's like a banana or something, but if we have like a meal, I feel off. I
Yep.
feel heavier. I don't feel like that true hollow bone. And I also don't know if I have to go to the bathroom or if it's the other person because I'm like, well, I just ate a meal, right? It's like there's this whole thing of becoming the hollow bone if you are want to do energy work or readings. It's what works for you, what doesn't. Like some of you need to eat before you do it. Me, I feel too heavy. I can't actually ground myself to be a channel. Um, and also with boundaries it goes into communication. Like Maria was communicating with herself, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on, what resonates? Communication also is the way you communicate with other people on the new earth, right? To raise your vibration. Are you communicating from a judgment standpoint? Are you communicating from a victim mindset? Are you like what energy are you projecting out if it, and
Mm-hmm.
if you're afraid of you speaking your truth when it comes from a place of love, if you're afraid to do that, that's something you check in with. And it's funny because like a lot, especially this last year, I've vocalized a lot more to people how I feel when I'm like, hey, I feel left out, or hey, you know, what you just said kind of hurt my feelings, like the way you said it, right? Rather than me inside being like, well, that just fucking hurt, like, and pulling it down in me, I'm like, I need to communicate this, but not communicate me like you fucking hurt me. I'm like, hey, that hurt my feelings. Like, can you just say it differently next time? Because it's the level you're expressing something also shifts the other person's response and the energy in the situation. And that's also plays with boundaries, like respecting how you feel and respecting how the other person might take it. And that being said, when you raise your vibration and you communicate something from your heart and the other person does not take it lovingly, know that it's not your fault and you doesn't mean to shut up and not speak anymore. It means you trusted what you wanted to say. And now the other person, because you can't control how someone reacts. And I've been having conversations with other light workers where they're triggered by the things I'm saying to them. And I say, well, maybe I go, I didn't mean to trigger you. Maybe you should look at yourself or something with that. Like I don't know exactly what to say. And then they realize, oh my God, you're like, and they look at themselves because when you're coming from a state of love, you word things differently. You come from a more compassionate aspect. Your communication shifts, and that in turn helps other people kind of have a mirror and also start to change their communication with things. And I'll hear people have conversations with people that never use their throat chakra, and I'm like, oh my God, they just said that, and it was coming from a place of love, and I just listen, and I'm like, oh my God, because well, when we can stand in our own space, communicate things clearly and like with compassion, believe it or not, other people are actually picking up on it, you know, just dropping seeds, like Maria was saying earlier. But that's the boundary setting. Like, is this my time to speak or not? And if it's coming from love and you like, if it's like, oh, I really need to say it, I really need to say it, then just say it. Otherwise, your parts are going to beat yourself up for not saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's the great thing with Maria and I's relationship. Like, there's no judgment, there's no jealousy, there's no competition. Me and her will literally like say things to each other, and it's like, okay, because it's just, it's coming
It
from,
is. And it's funny because, like, we can trigger, and I don't even like to say we trigger each other. Like, I don't believe people trigger our triggers, right? Like, that's really all it is. And like Sam and I can trigger each other's triggers 100%. But we're both self-aware enough that like we both be like, oh yeah, that's just my ego. Like, there's never an altercation, there's never a confrontation, there's never a fight, there's never anything. It's like, oh, ego just popped in, didn't it? Oh, or can honestly be like, oh fuck, that just triggered the shit out of me. So like, let's talk about it. Like, that's like how we deal with it. It's like, let's talk about that because that just triggered the fuck out of me, and I don't know why. So we sit here and dissect it and talk about it, and that's again, that's having like healthy communication. And I really feel like in order to, like what Sam's saying, to have this healthy communication with other people, it goes back to how you do talk to yourself, like, because we're all really hard on ourselves. And so when we're talking to ourselves in this sort of judgmental way, that's how we then talk to other people, because that's how we're used to talking to ourselves, or seeing ourselves like, oh, I should have known better, I should have done it differently, I should. Oh, that should word is all ego. And it's like, so then that's how we carry on our communication with other people, because that's how we're feeling about ourselves, and that's how we've been communicating with ourselves our whole life. Oh, I'm such a dumbass, I'm so stupid. Like, all these things that you think aren't affecting you, they are. Like, you're talking down to yourself. And then in turn you talk down to other people, and you don't even realize it, because it's just part of it's part of that human nature programming that, like, you can't even see it, because it's so normal. It's just become very normal for all of us to shit on ourselves, and it's sad that that's how we see ourselves. But again, that's what we're learning to break free from, because when you can talk to yourself with that compassion, you just automatically talk to other people the same way. You can't not. It's just what comes out of you. It's just the energy that sort of pours out of you. So yeah, self compassion, self love is not selfish, and in turn, it fosters very healthy communication. Yeah,
which I never knew existed.
yeah.
But once I stopped changing how I talk to myself, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
peace possible. Oh, you know?
Yep.
And the awareness part, awareness is befriending the ego. Awareness is
Hmm.
aware of what you're feeling, being aware of the energy, being aware of what makes you happy, what doesn't. If someone's, for instance, watching TV and it triggers you and you feel, ugh, don't sit there and watch the TV. Remove yourself. That's part
Hmm.
of awareness.
And boundaries. That's also boundaries. That's honoring that they want to watch what they want to watch, but you don't have to.
Hmm.
Like, you don't have to. You don't have to listen to what they listen to. You don't, there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with them. Literally. It's, again, it's accepting that we're all in different realities, different places, different whatever. So it's like, that's another form of having boundaries. It's realizing that that's honoring doing what you authentically want to do, what feels resonating with you, not doing it because you should be sitting there with the person because you should be spending time with them. So let me watch what they're watching. So I'm getting my time in with them, right? Like that's not coming from an authentic place, and that energy is felt in the whole interaction. Like on some level, that other person knows you don't really want to be sitting there watching that. And on some level, you're sitting there and like, I don't want to be fucking watched. So it's like just adding to this like energy of whatever it is that's even being watched. It's like, oh my God. So again, this is why boundaries, they don't only like empower and protect you, they empower the people around you because you're not sending out toxicity, right? Like you're not doing things out of guilt, shame, um, resentment, fear. You're doing it merely because it resonates and you want to be there.
Not doing it out of approval.
Correct. Approval's a huge thing, peeps, that we're all seeking on some level. And people that are watching this will probably argue that they don't need approval, but we all do on some level. Again, it's all part of the human programming. If you're in a human skin suit, you deal with all of these same things that we've talked about.
And approval is different than needing confirmation.
Hmm.
Like if I am in my shit, I'm in my feels, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting all these messages, downloads, whatever. I can't discern them, right? I feel like I'm out of alignment, even though I'm probably exactly where I'm supposed to be. I'll just ask Maria, hey, like, yes or no, or can you ask guides? That's that's not approval. That's a confirmation or a validation or like help me see things differently.
It's asking for another perspective is what it also is. So it's actually being open to another perspective because you're aware that you're kind of stuck in whatever's being downloaded into you. So it's like I just need an other perspective so I can see this without it goes back to like being the human in it. And that's just being self-aware. So yeah, it's not the same as needing approval because I am someone who has needed approval my whole life. I know what that feels like.
And my fiance Kevin has brought that to my attention a lot since he's become more aware because Maria and I standing in our light lately. And I realized my entire life I was seeking approval from my parents. And that was a hard thing to, because I felt like the parent, right? Whatever, not getting into the whole story. But I realized that it wasn't just there, it was other relationships I was in. Not only was I thinking I could fix them or save them or like, oh, if I'm just with them, like they'll change, they'll be better, or like I know what I have to offer. I was literally externally trying to get approval when really I just needed approval of myself from me. And the more
Mhm.
I was trying to have to I was not numbing. I was pushing myself aside to be there for someone else to like know that they know that I'm there for them. Like of course they fucking know I'm there for them. Like I don't have to be there all the time to let them know that. I learned, which is a boundary too. Once I became aware that um I just needed to love me and I stopped I stopped caring when people did shit that I would used to get pissed at. I'm like, wow, I doesn't even affect me anymore. That's weird. because I don't need to seek anything outside of myself. It's in me,
Mhm.
and I'm aware of it. And yes, human connection and communication is very important, but like if you're connecting with someone, you're doing things in order to keep that friendship, to keep that relationship, to know, like, to like, I love you, I love you, I love you, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Like, I'm your safety space. That's not,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not coming from a genuine place. That's
It's it's an attachment.
exactly, it's an attachment.
Yeah.
And once you can learn to release attachments, oh my God, it's like that's new earth. Like, not
Mhm.
attached to the,
Yep. Because that's the matrix mindset, is attachment. Because again, attachment's rooted in fear. We're all attached to money. We're attached to many things. I believed that was something I was always sort of self-aware of my whole life, is that I had attachment issues. Mine were to people, right? So it was like something I'm like, yeah, I have attachment issues. I have attachment issues. Then I started realizing what attachment was, and I'm like, holy shit, every human has attachment issues. Oh my God, everybody has attachment issues. It's not just me. Because if you're attached to an outcome, meaning you put something out that you quote unquote want or whatever, and you're attached to how it happens, when it happens, that's attachment. So, like, when you really start to look at all aspects of your life, you realize like attachment shows up in many, many, many places. It doesn't always have to be a material thing. It doesn't always have to be a person. Sometimes it's just to a situation. It's having an expectation to how you think something should play out or how something should manifest. So you have an attachment to that. We get attached to our beliefs. It even happens to me as I grow my awareness and adopt new beliefs every day, right? Then you get comfortable with those beliefs. You kind of attach to them. So then when a new awakening comes, you kind of resist it a little bit because you're like, shit, this isn't the belief. This isn't what I believed. This isn't, but then you're stunting your evolution. You're stunting your growth when you become attached to anything. So if you're attached to your beliefs, if you're attached to anything, right? And it's not in this, and I did a very powerful cord cutting ceremony that Sam knows about a month ago, and it was all about attachments and how we're all tethered to so many different things. We're attached to our career. We're attached to the role that we played in our career. We're attached to the roles we play in our families, meaning like we self-identify and believe that that's who we really are. We're attached to it. We've attached to the label of it. And this cord cutting thing really showed me how attachment is, it's, you're attached to your thoughts, you can be attached to your emotions, like it's insane. But when you start cutting these tethers, these cords, it's not about like cutting people or things necessarily out of your life, right? Like that's also an ego driven thing. Like, oh, I got to just get rid of it all, like, and then I'll be fine. Like, that's also not what this is about. It's releasing the energy that you have with this attachment, right? It's the energy of the attachment. It's not necessarily you have to get rid of all of your stuff. Like, some people do that in a spiritual awakening and that works for them, great. I'm not saying one is right or wrong, but try not to get too like, oh my God, I'm attached to this, I gotta get rid of it. No, it's not about, it's actually energetically getting again to a place of acceptance that if you don't have that person or that thing in your life, you're going to be okay. And not just okay, you're not going to be affected. You don't need it. It's this neediness of these things, these people, these outcomes, right? And that's the energy of attachment. So when you release the need for it, that's when fucking magic happens. That's when you actually create abundance. That's when everything starts coming flooding at you that you're like, holy shit, like, because you've released the need for it, right? The things that are meant to be there are going to be there because it's all energy and it's all vibrations and it's all frequency. So when you can learn to release these attachments, it's so freeing. It's freeing for not only yourself but anything and anyone you were attached to. It's felt, right? Because it's like what Sam was saying before, like that's like neediness when we're seeking the approval. So, and I did the same thing as her as when it came to like friends, friendships, relationships, like, I'm here for you, I'm here for you. Like, but like overexerting yourself to the point where it's like, you actually end up pushing that person away. You actually push that thing away because it's too much. Like they know you're there. They know you're there. And when they want you, they'll come ask for your help. Like, but it's a neediness that makes you, and for me, I was always somebody that wanted people in my life. Like was I was I had a fear of abandonment. I had a fear of being abandoned. So I have in turn tolerated a lot in my life just so I won't lose people. Right? Like that's attachment. That's another unhealthy form of attachment, but it's becoming aware of how these things have sort of controlled your life unconsciously and then being able to like, oh, that's why I did that. Oh, I don't really want to do that anymore. Okay. I'm going to start changing my ways a little bit because that doesn't feel good anymore. It never felt good, but now I'm aware of what it came from, so now it really doesn't feel good. And now I'm also aware of how it's energetically affecting other people, and that also doesn't feel good. So, attachments. Got them.
And if you think you're a person that doesn't have attachments, have you ever been the person that's like, I'm an Aries, it's why I'm this way. I'm a Leo, it's why I'm this way. Or um, I am, for instance, I am a nurse. Is that all you are? All you are. That's an attachment. It's like you think that that's all you are. I'm a nurse. And the same with when we're diagnosed with illnesses. Like one of the ones, Maria, I think you had fibromyalgia, right? So then you,
One of them.
right, you label it. Oh, that's why,
Yep.
this is why I have pain, 'cause I have fibromyalgia. Like my doctor said I do, so I must be that. I must be that. The power of I am profound. And the more you say that you are sick, or the more you say that you're this astrological sign, I can't even say it. I'm not knocking anyone who loves astrology. That just doesn't totally resonate with me on blaming your personality qualities on your sign. I'm sure there's some connection, but like it's also another attachment.
And it's disempowering. It's basically saying I'm this way because of this. So first of all, it takes out the self-responsibility of shifting, but it also takes your power away. Like, oh, I am this because of this. Well, that's why. And as nurses, we know how many patients do they're diabetic, they're non-compliant diabetic, they're in this, they're in that, they're this, they're that. That it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
wow,
they're a human.
yeah.
They're a human with a soul inside who is here just to learn, just like we all are. And in the hospital, so many times it's like I hated talking to my patients about them being sick. I never was like, oh, like I would say like how'd your surgery go or whatever, right? But like I wouldn't sit there and just keep ruminating on them being sick. Rather I change the topic or ask them about happy things, or because you're just being like infused with illness if you're sick in the hospital, right? Like that's all anybody fucking talks about. So that's of course it's all you think about. Like it's hard to think anything else because that's all that's coming in the room. That's all people are communicating. What if
Mm-hmm.
you just took a moment? Like I had a patient once who was super anxious and pain. I couldn't give him any pain medicine, and I sat down on the bed with them and I was like, "Here, let's do this breathing." Like, and I took their hands and they looked at me like I was crazy. And I was like, "Just try it." And all of a sudden, they didn't have any pain and they weren't anxious. Another person was trying to take a poop, super constipated. And I was like, just imagine bringing the breath down into there. And he's like, Sam, well, he pulls the thing and he goes, look at the shit I took. And I was like, see? He's like, from breathing. I'm like, see? But nobody takes the time to do it because also we're not taught and we think it's not going to work because it doesn't have a script or it's not in a nursing hand or doctor DSM book, right? So we think because we're sick, we're only sick. That's
Yep.
an
Yep.
And that's other part of the new earth, not to recognize you are not this illness, you are not this sign, you are not this blah blah blah. You are a human living an experience with a divine soul in you. And how you want to experience that is up to you, not how someone else tells you to experience it.
Right. And that's all those labels do is they disempower and then you self-identify with it and that becomes your reality. That becomes your story. I was so sick all the time, in so much pain all the time, and that's all I talked about. So that's what I kept manifesting until I was like, I can't live like this anymore. Like, this is not fun. Something is not right here. I am a healthcare provider, and yet I'm so sick and I'm not getting any answers from other healthcare providers. I'm getting more questions than answers. So for me, when I started to learn energy, it was life changing, because I started to connect all of the dots and realize how disempowering our healthcare system is. It's why I had to leave. It didn't, it goes back to, it didn't resonate with me anymore. There was no other reason that I left other than it didn't resonate with me anymore. I left pre mandates, and I knew mandates were going to come, but that wasn't the driver of my decision. It was like, what am I doing still working in something I don't believe in, that doesn't feel right anymore? Like, why am I, oh, because I have a fear that I can't make a business off of this. Like, oh, so there's a fear that's holding me back. That's the only thing that, oh, so it's only the money that I'm in it for? Like, wait, what? So that was a huge awakening for me a year ago. It's been almost a year since I left my job, and it's like, I've never felt more free in my life, first of all.
Mhm.
And it's like, looking back, I can realize, like, that is making a choice based on resonance. That is making a higher self choice. That's making a choice based off of my alignment and what my path is here. Right? It's not to judge what I did prior to. I had to be part of the system. I had to be in that role. I had to be part of that to awaken to it, right? But then once I realized it no longer resonated with me, I was like, I don't want to be part of it anymore. It don't feel good. It just doesn't feel empowering. And I say this because I feel like there's a lot of healthcare professionals out there that are sort of feeling these same things and may not even know why they're feeling it. Um, but it's been a hard 2 years for those that are still in the system, and I give kudos to those that are feeling this way but are also still in it. um, I feel like you're very courageous to be doing this work on yourself and still be in that chaos. But just, as you're going through this, kind of like everything we've said today, just allow yourself to be in whatever you're in, but check in with what feels right to you. Why are you still in it? Are you in it because of fear? Because I had a conversation with one of my clients recently about this. And why do you want to go back to a job? Because you think that's what you're supposed to do? And it was like, yeah. And I'm like, does that feel good? Is that going to send you right back into your old patterns and your old misery? Yeah. Well, then let's try to create something totally brand new, because that doesn't feel resonating anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that it doesn't, but honor that it doesn't, and honor where you're at now and follow what feels resonating, because that's what's going to create this new earth that we keep talking about. That's what this whole convo really keeps revolving back around to. Y'all want to know what the new earth is?
Yeah.
There
And
you go.
the universe, I used to say the universe tests us, but it's not a test. It's like,
An opportunity.
and it's funny because we have all these potentials that we've created for ourselves. That's why we're limitless beings. Just a matter of removing that we think we're limited. And Maria, I literally a year ago told me she was leaving her job, and I was like, damn, I started this business and she's already leaving her job. What the fuck am I doing? Oh my God, I'm in fear mode. And, but I didn't know I was. I just knew like something wasn't resonating with me anymore. And the universe gave her an opportunity, because the universe is funny. When we put things out there that we want and we ask for it, well, they sure do deliver it. It's just a
Pretty. Yep.
of how it comes, right? Because we have when we drop the other new earth thing, drop expectations of anything. Expectations is also attachment. So we then got offered more money with less hours at her fucking job. And I was like, and she didn't take it. And I was like, oh my God, I need to wake up more. I gotta, oh my God. And like, but the universe had been sending me signs. That's why I started the business.
Mm-hmm.
You leave. But
Mm-hmm.
I, human Sam, was not ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew when I was ready because I started crying every time I had to go to work. I was upset. It wasn't in alignment with me. I was like, why am I really doing this? And it wasn't until I took this weekend thing and then I didn't take a 6 month coaching. My fear around systems and money that was attaching me. And I was like, wait, I have co regulation. I have a business partner. Like, I can do this. Okay. But I had to become aware of those attachments. And then I kept asking the universe, okay, I'm ready to receive all that's mine. I'm ready to receive. And then I was receiving all that I put in my contract in too quick of a time. And
Including the cancer.
I asked for it, it came, and they were like, and I was like, okay, 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 okay. But you know what? I needed it, and it was the right time for me, and I allowed it to come, and I have dropped my attachment to money, to the systems, and like Maria said, I've never felt more free. I now sit in traffic to even like go somewhere that I really want to go. And if I'm in traffic for like 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, how did I ever sit in this? Like, this is the Matrix, bro. And but I'm like, wait, whatever. Let's be in the Matrix for a little bit, right? It's how we look at it, right? It's how we allow it into our system.
So true.
Okay, universe, help me be a human and just not feel the heaviness. Like, just help me. And one of my clients, she we worked really hard on her getting rid of her anxiety and like her depression and all this stuff. When I met her, she was in a job that she hated, and then she got fired, and then she recently um got two jobs. And when she told me about both of them, here it was like, oh, she's not gonna like that one, and but she's gonna love this one. But I couldn't tell her. I was like, that's great, you got jobs, right? Then after our session, I asked her how the first day went at that job. That spirit was like, she's not gonna like it. She was miserable. She was being triggered, 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 triggered. And I asked her, why did you decide to have that job? What made you even apply to that? She's like, well, it's all I know. It's what I'm comfortable with. I go, but were you comfortable when you were at it? No. And I said, so let's look at it. I was like, why did you do it? Well, I need the money. And I go, so is your health and happiness and all this working on your anxiety worth whatever? She goes, no. And I go, okay, well, I'm not telling you what to do, but there are a lot of potentials here. You did ask the universe for a job. Were you specific on the job? She goes, no. And I go, okay. So now let's narrow it down to be more specific, because in this new earth, this frequency, the universe comes in hotter and quicker, 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 quicker. The more we become aware of it, we express gratitude and the intentions we place.
Yeah.
We drop it. They drop it and we receive it. So I was like, what's your attachment to it? We broke it down. Well, she left it. She quit the next day and then works at the other place still. And then is finding other things that actually feed her soul to get money. Because in this new earth, it's about letting go of anything that doesn't make us feel good. We need to return to wholeness, and that means stopping doing what doesn't feel good. Like setting a boundary, right? Communicating
Mm-hmm.
with someone else and finding support. Like Maria and I, we have each other, but we also have other people. Like that we choose who we share things with, because we want to have people that will truly divinely support us in our healing. And that's why we
Yep.
become coaches too, because we want to support people in their healing. It's a fucking journey.
Just a little. Just a little.
But we're
No,
trying.
and I like too that you said, because I feel like too that gets, I remember being confused a little bit when I hear people say, like, what feels good, right? Like, so a lot of when we do follow our higher self's guidance, because it's not necessarily what we've normally been doing, we've mostly lived our lives ego, right? Because that's just how we humans live. It's not until you start becoming aware of this other aspect of you, this higher self, and when you start listening to the guidance of it. Like, oftentimes the guidance of what they're wanting us, or what we are wanting ourselves to do, it feels uncomfortable because it's new. It's so there's that feeling of uncomfortableness that's going to come up, right? So it doesn't always feel like, oh, this is great. But the way you described, like how you were talking about it with you were like, well, why does it, what feel, does it feel comfortable because it feels familiar? How did you feel when you were there? Did it feel comfortable when you were there? Well, no. Well, okay, so it's the familiarity of it that you're gravitating to because it's what you know, right? We're all like so afraid of the unknown. That's the biggest thing that we're afraid of. That's why we want to control everything and we have expectations and attachments. It's because of like we don't trust the unknown. We trust what we can control when in the reality of it, we don't have much control over pretty much anything in the external. So it's like we have this false sense of control. So when you release that false sense of control and just and step into the unknown and trust, because you're learning to trust the guidance from your higher self, your spirit, that's when you start to step out of comfort zones, but it still feels right to you. It's just like with leaving my job. That was a very uncomfortable thing for me to do. I'll be honest, I made quite good money working from home as a case manager. Um, Very little stress. It was probably my least stressful nursing job I ever had. So on paper, it was like the dream kind of nursing job. I didn't have to go into a place. I was very like self-sufficient, pretty independent. It's like a dream job. What I would have told you 5 years ago, my dream job was if I couldn't be a nurse physically taking care of people, because that was another boundary I set for myself when I started awakening and realized I couldn't care for myself. I had no business rolling patients and moving patients when I myself could barely get out of bed some days. So boundaries that I learned early on. Um, but it's not getting, it's realizing that yes, making new choices can be uncomfortable, but it still should give you this energy of like, it's new. There's still this empowering energy that feels right, right? Like stepping out of your comfort zone, even though it's scary AF, there's this pull to do it that you can't even describe sometimes. So you're following resonance. You're following what feels right to you. So just be aware that sometimes when it feels right, it can be uncomfortable, and there's nothing wrong with that because you're shifting out of the comfort of the ego. The ego is what has sort of given us this false sense of comfort, right? Like we stay in the jobs we hate because it's what we know and it's better than, I've heard that it's better than the devil you know is better than the one you don't, or something like that. But that's like the mindset that we have. So that's why people stay in jobs that they hate. They stay in relationships that they're not happy in. They stay in all of these things, and it's all still fear-based. It's not because it feels empowering or resonating with what your soul is here to experience.
Mhm. Yep. And that's like imperfect, courageous actions is profound. Because when you are stepping outside of something that you've been so comfortable with, step into something new, once you drop that expectation of I need to be perfect, I have to be this way, you just do it, it's like, whoa, what was I so scared about? But
Yep.
parts of us that are those shadow parts are nervous to step outside. Like our higher self, that light Maria's talking about up here, that's not the part that's scared. It's
No.
all of the parts that came down, right?
Yeah.
That are feeling like it's scary to do this. It's unsafe to do this. So, like when I got fired from because of the mandates, it was a blessing. I knew it was going to happen because I kind of asked for it, but um it was a blessing. And but the next day I was in my feels to the core, and I texted Maria. I was like, I can't go to work tonight. I just can't fucking do it. Like I can't say goodbye to people. I just can't do it. And so I texted my manager and I just expressed how I felt rather than like being afraid. Like people don't express to the manager, I'm fucking sad right now. Like I can't. But I did because that's how I was feeling. Where I was respecting where I was, and then I just wanted to be in my feels the entire weekend. Instead, the next day I asked for fares from the universe. there was one the next day, and I didn't want to go. I wanted to cry and just be pissed and angry, and in my head, that was part of me though. And in my head, or in my heart, I should say, it was like, you asked for this. What are you doing? You asked for this. I was like, fuck, I did. Oh my God, I did. And I became aware of it. I was aware of everything I was feeling. And I was like, I'm going to show up today. Even if I don't sell one damn thing, I'm going to show up because I'm meant to be there. And now one of the girls that I met there, she's a love. I've allowed her to do healing on me. She's awesome. And I sold some stuff. I made great connections because I stepped outside my comfort zone, and that's part of the new work too. Like courageous
Mm-hmm.
actions and being aware of how you're feeling, and like seeing if it's coming from a lower vibration feeling or like one of like love. So if what you're fearing, if something brings you fear, why is it bringing you fear? Because what if you just push past that fear? That's where the courage is, and that's where like your world opens up.
Yep.
And that's part of the new earth. These imperfect courageous actions, which us doing this recording is one. So
Yes, this is totally out of my comfort zone. So, and oh my God, wicked loud ringing in my left ear as I say that. Even with the earbud in, it's like,
yep. So we love you guys. Hopefully you're listening. Listening, not live, but um more videos to come. But this is just kind of a breakdown, a longer one of New Earth.
Yep. Because
But
we have these like profound conversations, and then at the end of it, we're like, why didn't we record that? So we started having a conversation. Sam's like, I think we need to record. So yes, there'll be more of these to come. We'll get better at hitting the record button.
yes, we will. And if you need anything, you can email us, you can look us up, you can book a session, you can listen to other meditations and videos.
Yes.
But when you're going through these ascension processes and awarenesses, find a tribe, right? Find people that can support you with it so you don't feel crazy.
Yep.
And that will allow you to go through the motions and make these imperfect, greatest actions in a safe way. So
Yes.
we
You
love
are
you.
not alone, and you got this.
Happy
Love you.
Love you.